Hello, everybody, and welcome to AI Tool Up Tuesdays, a mini course designed to help you master AI tools for research. My name is Avi Stamen, and I'm your host for the course. Since 2014, I've been the founder and CEO of Academic Language Experts, an author services company dedicated to helping scholars elevate their manuscripts prior to publication and grant proposals to receive competitive research funding. I'm also working on a new startup called SciSpace, a co-pilot tool for researchers whose goal is to transform the process of writing your research article or grant proposal into a constructive and rewarding experience while cutting the time it takes to write in half. We're thrilled that you're joining us today and have worked hard to ensure the sessions are super practical, straight to the point, while at the same time being jam-packed with value. All the sessions are being recorded and uploaded to our digital library that you can access on demand, SciWriterAI/digital-library/. Before we get started, I want to share a bit of the latest from the world of AI in research this week. This week, two researchers, Roy Kishoni and his student Tal Ifarjan at the Technion Institute in Israel, used GPT to generate an entire paper from scratch. The paper was entitled "The Impact of Fruit and Vegetable Consumption and Physical Activity on Diabetes Risk Among Adults." What's remarkable about their work is that the entire study took them less than 60 minutes to complete and is actually credible research. Kishoni and Ifarjan started by downloading a publicly available dataset from the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention's Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, a database of health-related telephone surveys. The dataset includes information collected from more than 250,000 people about their diabetes status, fruit and vegetable consumption, and physical activity. First, they asked ChatGPT to write code they could use to uncover patterns in the data that they could analyze further. With a structured dataset in hand, Kishoni and Ifarjan then asked ChatGPT to help them develop a study goal. The tool suggested they explore how physical activity and diet affects diabetes risk. Once it generated more code, ChatGPT delivered the results. Eating more fruit and vegetables and exercising is linked to a lower risk of diabetes. ChatGPT was then prompted to summarize the key findings in a table and write out the results section. Step by step, they then asked ChatGPT to write the abstract, introduction, methods, and discussion sections of their manuscript. Finally, they asked ChatGPT to refine the text and send it off for submission. I am not interested in debating the merits and problematics with the particular study or with using ChatGPT for research in general. What I want to do is give you a glimpse of how researchers are using the potential capabilities of AI tools when used effectively and responsibly in the production of research. You can find more information about this study in the article in Nature. And I think what's really critical and important here is to say that, there's a particular reason why I'm bringing in the folks who are in the academic publishing and academic writing and scholarship space. And I'm not talking about ChatGPT. I'm not talking about these generic tools. I want tools that are verifiable, that are reliable, that reduce the hallucinations, and that we can really rely on as researchers in order to succeed. Okay, that's enough for me. Let's get to the main event. Tonight, we're joined by three entrepreneurs who will be teaching us about their tools, and this will be the format for the remainder of the course, taking place every other Tuesday. So mark it down in your calendar, same time, same place, every other Tuesday, new entrepreneurs each time. We're going to start off tonight by learning about SciSpace. You may have heard of SciSpace. SciSpace, the CEO of Spice and co-founder of SciSpace is Saikiran Chandha. Built the AI research assistant that uses large language models to automate tasks in the research workflow. He holds a master's in computer science and is a Stanford Ignite Fellow. Previously, he built Typeset, an AI tool to automate formatting of manuscripts, which reached over 500,000 users. Sai has been recognized in Time of India's 40 Under 40, and he is an active contributor to Forbes Business Council, Fast Company, and Entrepreneur Magazine. Sai, really happy and lucky to have you here today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Avi, for the good introduction. And thanks everyone for taking time out for this session. I hope this session will definitely add value. So I'm Saikiran, I'm co-founder and CEO of SciSpace. We use large language models to automate research workflows, essentially to amplify the productivity. And I'm gonna start sharing my screen just to talk about what we're up to. So by automate research workflow, specifically, I'm talking about automating tasks that researchers face. And one of the tasks that we are interested in is this task of literature review. And the main problem, I think we all agree, is that there is this massive information explosion that's happening. Just to give you some numbers, about 4.5 million research articles published every year. And I do a lot of research in CS and ML, and I see right now thousands of papers getting published on a weekly basis. So it's humanly impossible for a researcher to actually catch up with what's going on, read through the entire paper, and understand which one to trust or read. So that's where LLMs, large language models, can actually help a lot, because these LLMs can synthesize, read, extract more information than humanly possible, and they can do the entire work related to that. And especially in literature review, the main issue is that the information is exploding, but the time is always constant, and that's where LLMs can fill the gap. So I'm going to talk about how we are going to solve all this issue with SciSpace. And then there is another problem, another task that we are specifically interested in, which is around reading comprehension. And what I really mean by that is this is very relevant for folks who are reading cross-disciplinary research, because most of these papers are filled with a lot of technical terms and jargons, and you want to really understand it with very less time. And that's where even LLMs can come in. They can read through the content, act as a translator between you and the research paper, and do the entire simplification problem, right? So these are the two key tasks that I'm going to focus on in the demo. There are other tasks that we do, but I'm not going to focus on that today. You can explore that from the website. Let me just go to the website, right? So let me push this here. I hope everyone is able to see the screen. Avi, can you confirm?
Yeah, we can see your screen. Just
okay.
Yeah.
Great. So this is SciSpace. So what you have here is a massive research graph that we built, about 200 million plus research articles, which is abstracts, the metadata, and there are all these tools right here. So today I'm going to focus on the literature review tool. So before I actually jump into the tool and how it works, first I want to talk about how literature review is done, the current state of the art, right? So I have this question, I type this question, I get this bunch of results. And Google Scholar, this is Google Scholar. So Google Scholar pretty much works based on keyword-based search. So I have to ensure as a researcher, I put in the right keywords to get the right results. And once you have these results, basically these are a list of links that you have to go through. And as a researcher, you open this in new tab, each one in new tabs, you have probably 5 or 10 tabs, and you read through each of that paper, abstract, introduction, conclusion, understand whether it makes sense for us or not, right? So that's the current workflow. And this costs a lot of time, because you have to go through each of these article and go to the second page, and you do this process continuously. So this is pretty expensive process. In contrast, what SciSpace does is a bit different. So I ran the same query right here, and right now it's processing through this entire research graph. What you get is a list of papers, but what's more interesting is that you also get a synthesis. This is pretty much a synthesis from the top 5 papers that's closely related. So one thing that I want to emphasize here is that SciSpace doesn't specifically work the way the Google Scholar works. We are not a keyword-based search engine. We are more of a semantic search engine. So you really don't need to worry about ensuring that the right keywords are mentioned in your query. So whether you ask the question in natural language, we pull in all the information which is closer to your query. So we represent all the entire papers in embedding space, and we find the closest one, right? So that way we can really understand the intent behind your query and get the right results. So just to give an example, how does climate change impact biodiversity? What you see here in a couple of these things, although the keywords are not mentioned, you get the similar or closest terms to that query. So that way you don't miss up on a lot of content. But coming back to the main thing, so what you get here is a table, not a list of links. So essentially, we've taken all the data in the unstructured links, and we present that entire information as a table. So how is it helpful? So this is a query, and the first thing that you see as a column here is the insights column. So this insights column specifically is a summary based on your query. It's a summarized version of an answer to your query from the paper. So you see the answer, climate change affects biodiversity, but potentially leading to species. This is exactly what this paper talks about from the perspective of the query that I've entered. And you got another column, TLDR. Now let's do a little complex workflow. So now I can add other interesting things that I'm interested in, right? So let's say I want to understand what are the results of all the paper, what are the methods, what are the contributions, what are the limitations. And when I hit enter, what you see right now is these LLMs are going through each of the links that you see on the page, and then they are reading, extracting, synthesizing information, and presenting that in this tabular format. If you don't pre-LLM, you have to do this entire work manually. So this in itself saves a lot of time. So you could see the results section, climate change threatens global diversity. That's exactly what this paper talks about. And let me go through some other columns for you. You can try out different links. So SciSpace is for free right now. You can go sign up, try out different links and understand how it works. And we are introducing another functionality so that you can define your own column. So right now, these are the predefined columns that we provide, but we are soon launching a feature where you can define your own column. Another thing that I want to talk about is, let's say you are interested in this article and you have a couple of questions. So what you could do is you could just click this button, ask a follow-up question, and you could say what are the contributions or something, right? Anything that you're interested in, and you get a response from an LLM, a large language model, which is actually reading through the entire article and getting that insight. So that's what you see right here. Now let me jump into full text. Let's say I'm interested in reading this article. Now I go here and I click this full text PDF, right? So this is the task that I mean. This is the task related to the reading comprehension. Essentially, you want to go through this entire article quickly and ask a lot of questions. So what you can do is you can actually use our Chrome plugin, which is available on Chrome and Edge. When you hit that plugin, it reads through the entire article and it gives you this entire information. So now you have the research paper on the left side, and you have a co-pilot, an assistant on the right side, where you could run through a lot of questions. What are the data sets used? And you will get the responses. Now, one thing that I want to really focus on, and this is for those folks who deal with a lot of math and tables, essentially in math and CS community, is that you often have these research papers with mathematical equations and tables. And myself, when I go through a literature review, read through a lot of papers, and initially I really don't want to give a focused attention to actually debug the equation. So there, what I can do is I could use this feature called Explain Math and Table. You hit that, and the image gets sent to the model. The model tries to understand the equation behind it, and then it debugs and explains that entire equation for you. So this way you can do a quick read of the article and understand whether it makes sense to you or not. And you could also apply the same thing for tables as well. So this is pretty much about the reading comprehension and the literature review task. And there are a couple of things that I also want to cover here, is that if you like an article, you can just select it. And when you hit this button, show more like selected, what you get is all the articles which are related to the ones that you've selected. So this way you can go deep into your literature review workflow. So we look at the citations, the forward and backward links, and then we figure out what are the interesting papers closer to the selected papers. And you could see all that entire links here. And one last thing before I end this, I want to talk about is this functionality of the workflow. Wherever you're interested in, if you can directly select the content, and you could ask it to give a related papers, explain or summarize. And more importantly, you can also highlight, you can add your own notes, and all the notes are available. So this is a quick walkthrough of the reading comprehension and literature review. We also have other tools that you might want to try out, where you want to upload your own PDFs, and you can directly go to SciSpace website, check it out, and do share us the feedback. We are open on Discord, so you could join our Discord channel. I think I'm gonna send this link on this chat here. And maybe request probably Avi post the call. Is there a way to disseminate it? So that way you could join our Discord channel community and share the feedback and any new features that you want us to work on. Thanks a lot for this opportunity. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Sai. Really appreciate your this presentation. I think it was really informative and helpful. And just one moment here. I want to continue. And we're going to continue in a minute with Felix from Lateral. But before we do so, I just want to say a quick thanks to the folks at Reviewer Credits. Reviewer Credits is a website where you can actually get credits for the reviews, the peer reviews that you're doing for the different journals, and actually turn in those credits for help with things such as editing or formatting or actually APC costs for journals. So I encourage everyone to check them out. We are actively looking for additional marketing partners as well as sponsors for the course to help us defray some of the costs. So if you are part of a company or an institution and you want to take part and you want to help share, and we'll, share you on the landing page and present your service at the next meeting, please do be in touch with me. I'll throw in my email here. This is a great way to be in touch with me. I'll also just let everyone know that if you are on LinkedIn, I'm quite active on LinkedIn. I know I got a lot of questions about the course. I try to answer as quickly as possible. But if you have, if you want to keep up to date and you want to be in the know about what the next topic of the next course is, when it's happening, I mean, it's all in the schedule, but I do put up mostly updates on my personal LinkedIn page. So feel free to reach out, send me an invite, and I will be happy to accept. And then you can get all the latest information about the course. All right, moving on. I want to introduce Felix, who's the co-founder of Lateral. Lateral helps researchers, academics, and students complete their reading up to 10 times faster by giving them a single place to automatically capture and organize key findings supported by AI. Having studied international relations and history, he felt the pain of trying to find information with just keywords. Felix knew that there needed to be a better way to support all researchers solving the world's most complex problems. Lateral has built an in-house AI recommendation tool, which over the years they've applied in many different ways and applications. Felix specifically focuses on the UX and UI of making powerful tech intuitive to use. Felix, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know there were a lot of questions on Sai's presentation, which is great. Questions means that there's curiosity. I'm sure there'll be questions on the rest. We will try and address as many questions as possible at the end of the session. So stick around, and everyone, all of the presenters, the entrepreneurs will stick around to the end as well. And we will try and do a rapid fire session with answers to questions. But we want to give everyone an opportunity. So Felix, the stage is yours. We don't yet hear you or see your screen, I don't think.
Can you see me? Can you see me?
We can hear you and see you now, but we do not see your screen.
Okay, no, perfect. No, but I'll say, yeah. Okay, so thanks, Abby, so much. Thanks for the invite. Really happy to be here. Hi, everyone from Berlin. Yeah, really glad to be here. And yeah, look forward to showing you what we've built. So I'll dive right in and share my screen. Can you see my screen? Perfect. Yeah. So we're Berlin based and we're called Lateral. And what we say we do is that we help you complete hours of reading in minutes. So this is actually you going through your documents much, much faster and solving the problems of having too many papers in your download folder, things that we all know when we're doing a literature review, for example. You have to open, read documents one by one, copy, paste findings, and losing references. And it can be quite a stressful and complicated workflow, which you're constantly iterating on rather than actually focusing on the work. So to explain a little bit, there's so many AI tools out there, which are really great at helping you find papers and research papers. And we do a little bit of that, but the key focus is actually once you have those papers and you're going through those, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So you can go through a lot faster, and yeah, it's more unified kind of fun workflow while you're researching. And so let's focus on, if we're looking at the literature review task, if we're just going to break that down quickly, I just want to explain that again. So you define a research question, conduct a comprehensive literature search, evaluate the sources, read critically, organize, and so on and so forth. And the ones that we are really strong at or focus on are these four here. We do help with the others, but that's just to give you some context. So let me dive into the tool and show you what I mean. Perfect. So this is Lateral. This is the landing page. And the first thing that I can do is just create a project. So everything's just simple as a project. And let's say I'm looking at this, the role of agriculture and global warming, a review of emissions impacts and sustainable practices. So I'm really interested in this topic. And I'm opening this, and this is where I can kind of get started. The first thing that I can do is I can upload papers that I've already collected. Again, referencing all the great AI tools and tools out there for finding papers these days. We also have a find papers, which is a simple keyword search. So if I do agriculture and climate change, you know, we're using the Semantic Scholar database here, and we're bringing in documents about that. And what I've actually prepared is, just so that you don't have to see me upload all these documents, is the same project with some documents in it now. And I just have to move this bar here. Exactly. And so what you see here is now my table. And what's happening in Lateral is that I've got my papers on the left. I can add notes for every single paper, you know, if I want to write some notes down. But now the real magic happens with concepts. So I'll be going through my documents, and I'll be looking for specific things across those. So let me just add some concepts, and I've kind of created some already, and we can dive into those. But yeah, so for example, greenhouse gas emissions, land use and deforestation, policy and government, sustainable practices, and technological innovations, just some examples. And the reason we're doing this is just as I'm doing my literature review, I'm going to be looking for specific themes across my documents. And the cool thing is when I drop my papers into Lateral, it actually breaks them all down so I can search across them all at once. So if I go here into the super search and write greenhouse gas emissions, then I can see actually snippets from across my papers broken down. So I can really quickly search within all my papers. And then this is where the machine learning comes in. So we don't focus that much on generative AI, but we actually focus on contextual matching. So for every result that I find in the super search, I actually find similar snippets. So this is Lateral recommending similar snippets to me as I'm going through these papers. So I can really quickly find the pieces of the papers that are interesting to me, because often if we're reading a paper, we'll see a passage and we're like, oh, this is exactly what I'm interested in. Is there that kind of passage in the other papers? And this is what we're allowing you to do. And the nice thing is that, and this comes back to kind of this unified workflow where you're saving things and you don't have to worry about things getting lost, your findings, so that I can label these with the concepts that I just created. And the reason we call them concepts and not labels is because they're a little bit smarter than labels, in that I can actually, the Lateral actually learns from what I'm saving to greenhouse gas emissions. And so it's building up an understanding of what I mean by that. And so I can actually click any empty cells and it'll start recommending passages of text to me based on what it now knows I'm looking for. So it's kind of an assistant to help you find things that you're looking for. And this is actually really helpful in the document view. So if I'm actually reading the document itself, then as you can see, I can bring out this concept that I've created, and I can quickly jump to sections that are related to that. So that's quite a long section, but again, here, a smaller section, and I can then actually save these as well. And again, that's going to be added to my findings table. So as you can see, is what I'm doing here is I'm creating a matrix of findings, which is automatically happening. And I can also add notes to my snippets. So any observations I have, which is really powerful when you come to the writing process, because you can rewrite your findings in your own words and things like that. And that helps you in your writing process later on. So yeah, so I can write, anything here. So a significant finding, for example, and that gets saved. And then I can also flag to categorize these snippets. But so as you can see, this is kind of what Lateral does. And the cool thing is that I can export to Word and Excel and to familiar formats. And that can then really help me write my papers. And then I have all my findings nicely organized here for me. So if I'm writing, I can, drop that in. It's giving me a bibliography at the end as well. So we're pulling that out. And yeah, so that's kind of Lateral in a nutshell. So having gone through it quite quickly, It's the stage after you're finding papers. It helps a little bit with that, but it's really about that laborious task of when you're going through your papers. You're managing maybe an Excel sheet or a big sheet of your findings. You're worried about things getting lost. And the cool thing about these concepts is that I can reuse these across projects so that I can actually in the future build on those as well to write papers and things like that. So yeah, so that's that piece. And then I just wanted to quickly, because we are exploring the generative AI side of things as well. And so what we found is that this is so great. These tools are so cool about, finding evidence really quickly and finding papers and these things. But how do you actually now take that and make what's happening on the individual level kind of impactful for finding solutions much faster? And so what I quickly just wanted to show was what we're calling the coordination network, which is a new thing we're launching. And so the idea is that you can access funding as fast as you can now discover evidence. And the idea is that what we see a lot of challenge, the big challenge today is that, the tools are getting faster and faster, but the system around grants and publishing and things like that is still very bureaucratic. And so what we're doing is wanting to shortening the time between communities who want, outcomes and those that can deliver them. So we're working with a lot of funds, especially in the DeSci space, which is decentralized science, and in the Web3 space that are coming together around causes. And we're looking at new ways to basically fund contributions to that. And so we're building an interface for kind of road mapping. And the idea is that you can roadmap how to solve a problem, bring in researchers around this to contribute. And then the idea is also that this is compatible with all the tools that you're using to gather evidence. But the real thing is about taking what's happening on the individual level to really create impact and value on a societal level. And that's what we're calling the coordination network. So yeah, thanks a lot. So that's Lateral and the coordination network, lateral.io. And thanks a lot, Avi, again. And thanks to everyone for joining.
Thanks so much, Felix. That was excellent. Wonderful. Okay, before we move on to ScholarAI and Damon, which is our last presentation for the day, I have a quick favor to ask everybody here. We're going to take a minute pause, a minute break, and I just want to quickly share my screen here. And here's just a quick infographic with they say you should set a big hairy goal when you set out for a project, and my big goal was to reach 10,000 people with this course, 10,000 researchers who would learn AI tools and feel like they could find certain tools that work for them. Over the course of the course, we will be learning over 20 different tools, and I don't expect everyone to learn and know each and every one, but I do think that if you can come out with 2 or 3 that are really helpful for your research, well, then it's well worthwhile. So anyway, this is a infographic. We're up to 2239 registrants, which is great through 3 weeks. So that's a really just kind of think shows to me and to other, how excited researchers are about these tools and how curious they are about them. But we want to get to 10,000 by the time we finish this course off in September. So what I'm going to ask everyone to do right now is take 1 minute. I just sent a message to everyone via the chat, which is a text that you can just copy and paste with the link to the course. And I'm going to ask for everyone to think about 1 or 2 places that you can share this course with colleagues in order to really spread the word about it. And we've still got 5 sessions to go, so there's plenty left to learn. And we're making a digital library that is already available to you with all the recordings. So that will be available to you throughout. So where should you spread it? I'll give you a few ideas. Obviously, you know best where your colleagues are and where they may be hanging out. But academic WhatsApp groups is a great place. You might be part of a listserv where they send out daily digests of emails in your subject area. That's a great place to spread the course. If you're willing to share it with your research office, with the research authority, with your research manager, that's fantastic. Ask them to share it. And also, think about other social networks, LinkedIn. If you're a heavy Twitter user, you can live tweet the session, or you can just send out a message about the course. So I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to give everyone a minute to go ahead and post somewhere that you think will be helpful and help spread the word. And as a thank you for those who are interested, for those who do spread the word, we've put together an ambassadors program. So the ambassador program are folks who help us share the course and then send me a screenshot of them sharing the course. I'll send you my email so that you can go ahead and send that to me. And anyone who does that will get access to a spreadsheet of special discount codes and free access to some of the tools that we're featuring here today, and also the tools that we have featured and will feature. If you have already helped share it, thank you, first of all. But also know that we have updated the discount codes with new discount codes recently, so please check the spreadsheet. And if you have not yet gotten those discount codes and you have shared, please let me know and send me an email. So let's just take a minute, everyone, to go ahead and share on groups that are most that they think will be most effective, and then we'll come back around and introduce Damon. All right, thanks everybody for helping spread the word. Really appreciate it. And we're going to continue ahead now. One more thing before Damon begins is we have a WhatsApp group for those who are interested. The WhatsApp group is intended specifically to share information and experience share what your experience with these tools has been. So if, let's say, tomorrow you go ahead and you're experimenting with SciSpace and you're experimenting with Lateral, and you want to kind of tell people, oh, here's what I learned, here's what worked, here's what didn't work, really real, experience sharing. That's where we do it. That's, it's only for folks who really want to be part of that, that kind of that community. We try not to hound people with too many messages, but I encourage anyone who kind of wants to learn more about these tools and do it actively, not just in the course, but over the in between, you're welcome to join the chat. Okay, so now, last but not least, I want to introduce Damon Burrow. Damon, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Damon is one of 4 co-founders of ScholarAI, a company dedicated to building trustworthy AI for science, medicine, business, and law. The ScholarAI plugin for ChatGPT has been used over 15 million times by users to find and interact with information from peer-reviewed sources using GPT-4. In addition to helping build ScholarAI, Damon builds point-of-care diagnostic tools as a full-time PhD student at Duke University in the biomedical engineering department. He's also a venture capital associate with Duke Capital Partners and is the co-founder of EQ Software and Golf EQ, a company that helps golfers find the best equipment for them using ML and AI. Damon, I should have brought you on to talk about golf because that would have been really interesting, but we'll keep it in scholarly research for tonight, and we'll have to do that another time.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate the time. Thanks for organizing and thanks for putting this together. I also want to mention that another one of my co-founders at ScholarAI is with us today. Laksha Bakshi is in the group. He's leading the technical kind of piece of ScholarAI, and I will share some stories with you because in true startup fashion, we have had some problems with the GPU today. So we're gonna fly through this and hope it all goes well. But that segues us into really nicely. Please, someone confirm that they're seeing the screen. Good. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Good.
So ScholarAI, as you mentioned, its only current product right now is a plugin for ChatGPT. And at the time that ChatGPT was exploding, we were working with various tools and noticed this incredible groundswell of people using this new powerful large language model to interact with things essentially all across the internet. And I want to share just a very, very simple case study with you right now to show you some of the powers of ChatGPT, but also to highlight one of the problems with this. And so I'm going to focus this on point of care diagnostics because, as you mentioned, that is kind of the focus of my work for my PhD. But if we just simply ask ChatGPT using the 3.5 transformer, then we are going to get a result in which ChatGPT says, yes, sure, I can help you. Absolutely, I can give you papers that correspond to your request, which is great, sounds good. But what we have noticed is in many cases, when you go in and actually look to use this tool or these papers that it found, what you end up with is no actual paper. And this is indicative of how the large language models work. They're simply just predicting the next token. And so what you end up with is a lot of references that in actuality do not exist. And so the very first thing that we do, and for those of you not initiated to ChatGPT, everyone has access for free to this GPT 3.5. For those Plus members who do subscribe, you'll get access to GPT 4. And then by going down here to your settings, you can go to beta features and enable plugins, which is where you will find us. And so you simply click here, you click plugins beta, and this launches the plugins that I have installed, as well as a plugin store in which you can navigate to very many plugins. And so we've been fortunate enough that on basically since our entire existence, we have been on page 1 or 2 of the popular tabs of ChatGPT's plugin store. So if you are curious, you will find us there. You simply click install, and then we will show up in your installed tab as well. So then to activate us, all you do is go here, make sure that your checkbox is checked, and we are good to go. So I'm going to give our plugin, apologies, 3 papers for point of care diagnostics. This is the same prompt that I gave ChatGPT 3.5, and what we will see, again, hopefully, is our plugin activate and work. And then you don't have to explicitly request that ChatGPT use the ScholarAI plugin. Anytime that you ask it technical questions that require some sort of peer-reviewed information, it's going to be intuitive enough such that it can actually show you papers. And so what you're seeing now is it's generating references, 3 papers, as I asked for, that are relevant to point of care diagnostics. And I saw one of the chat questions come up earlier about how the hierarchy of these papers are spit out. Ours right now is based on citation count and relevance, so kind of a cross-reference of relevance and citation count. But what you will see is once our papers are produced, these papers are actually hyperlinked, and these can kick you out to the exact source of where those papers came from. So hopping back over, that is kind of layer 1. The next layer is diving in deeper, as you will see. And so rather than just finding papers, I actually now want to see key points. So show the key points from paper 1. And ChatGPT, because of its context window, knows that when I am referencing paper 1, I'm actually referencing the paper 1 that it just found. And assuming that everything is still functional, it's going to spit me out a synthesis of the key points from this paper. And so this is one of the advantages of building with these large language models, is that we can translate what are somewhat arcane results that are specific to a scientific literate audience, and they can now become interactable for everyone. And so people, regardless of education, regardless of culture, regardless of language, can interact because of the capabilities of ChatGPT directly with this kind of technical information. And then so I'm going to let this finish, and then I'm going to launch. Basically, it just prompts us here if we'd like to dive into more details or explore another paper. And so again, we could ask for more papers. We could ask for it to dive from key points from another paper. We can ask it to amalgamate key points across the 3 papers. Similarly, what I also want to show you is a way in which we can use ScholarAI in a slightly different way, in that once we have found a paper that we would like to read and we would like to interact with, we can simply copy the URL. We can provide that URL to ChatGPT with a ScholarAI plugin and simply say, show me key points in this paper. And we paste in our URL, and then ScholarAI can actually go out, parse that full text of this paper, and then display to us the key points from this paper. And so harkening back to as this loads, I want to make just a general statement on the use of these tools Ours, much like many others, are designed to limit the hallucinations of these AI systems, but we have seen through kind of an explosion of use that as the context of these things get longer and longer, hallucinations still can occur. So while ScholarAI, we believe, is a very good tool, and we've seen it kind of be incredibly helpful for researchers, scientists, doctors, et cetera, I do want to caution people to saying that these tools are not foolproof at this point, and that there still needs to be a great deal of oversight, and they should be used with care, basically. So again, we do our best to make sure that everything that we produce comes with in-text citations that are hyperlinked, and so that people can immediately follow up with them. But again, I just say that anytime you kind of let these systems run wild, you kind of invite some potential problems. So that is where we're at right now. We have several add-ons that are coming, both as part of this plugin and as a dedicated tool, because as I mentioned earlier, one of the great things about building with ChatGPT is we get to help all of the users of ChatGPT that are trying to look for technical information. One of the pitfalls of building strictly within the ChatGPT ecosystem is that we are sometimes beholden to their updates. So occasionally our plugin will have downtime anytime they push updates. There's obviously an approval process for getting on their tool. So as we make updates, we again sometimes face some time which you won't be able to find us. So if you ever are trying to use us and we're not there, just hang tight. We're probably going through another approval process to make sure everything is in order, and we will be back soon. I want to make two other notes. The first being that we find papers using third-party services. Currently, we use the OpenAlex and the Semantic Scholar API, so our access to papers is into the hundreds of millions. That number is constantly changing, so it's a little bit of a moving target to be able to state exactly where our paper count is at any one point as things move in and out of the open access sphere. But that leads me into kind of my final point, and that is, for the most part, one of the hurdles that we have found in building this tool and disseminating this information to people is that any paper that is behind a paywall, and I think you will find that this is mostly consistent for all of these AI/large language model tools, is that anything behind a paywall is very difficult and oftentimes completely locked away from our access. And so the papers that you will find using our tool are open access papers. And right now you will be currently limited to open access papers. So just again, making that very clear. But with that, I'd like to stop. I'd like to have some time for questions, that kind of thing. I'd like to thank everybody for listening.
Thanks so much, Damon. Really appreciate that. And I think that was a really helpful and clear and presentation. Yeah, I know there's a lot of questions around open access and like, what databases all of these tools are drawing from. And I just want to make a general comment, which is that, there's nothing that publishers guard more than their gated content, and they're not just going to give that away. They're going to hold on to that for dear life. So I wouldn't expect many of the tools or any of the tools that we're going to learn about to really have full access to all of the scientific record information, as much as I think everyone on this call would love that and understands the importance of it. So it's, it's just, we're doing the best with kind of the open access that's there. And what is, I think, encouraging is that there is more and more research that's being published open access on an annual basis. So hopefully over time, that record will be enriched and there is more than enough to have a good start. So anyway, that's just a bit about that. Do any of you, Damon, Sai, or Felix, want to add anything specifically about kind of access to, to papers?
Maybe not directly around access to papers, but I think it raises an interesting question just in general around coordinating research and things like that. And I just wanted to add, because there was a question also around DeSci and decentralized science and things like that. And we're really excited about what's happening there, especially what the blockchain can do for academia and like attribution and things like that, and making it more open so that we can also kind of bring people together that are researching on similar things, and actually bringing people together around causes that they care about and funding that. So it's kind of speaking to, in general, the system of publishing papers, getting into journals, all the stress involved in actually getting funding as a researcher, where there needs to be new ways around all of that, so because the world needs much better solutions, and research is so important. And so actually holding back research in that respect, I think, is something that the decentralization and things like that can be really exciting. And I think there's so many amazing people working in DeSci, so decentralized science. I would recommend checking that out, and getting involved. And there's a lot of discords where you can get involved. And so yeah, that was just something to add around. Not exactly.
Yeah, I want to kind of say about Felix and all the other founders. One thing, the biggest thing that I've learned since launching this course is how sort of idealistic a lot of these tools might just seem like technical tools, but actually they're trying to break open some of the some of the chains around research and really make them accessible. So for example, for those who were here last week and saw Josh presenting Cite. So Cite on its face is just like, well, it helps you with citations, but actually once you do a deeper dive, you realize, well, actually Cite is giving value to citations and showing what's important, which means that the whole impact factor system, which is at least in my opinion quite flawed, can be broken open once we understand the value of citations and not just counting up citations to see what worth is. So that's just one example of how some of these tools are not only kind of, oh, this is a nice thing that I can use to help me with my research, but are actually can change the face of how we can access, spread, disseminate research. And also one other thing that I want to say, which is really important, is a lot of these tools either are free or quite cheap and actually open up the floodgates for the global South and for researchers who never would be able to compete or to be able to, be in that. All of a sudden it's evening and leveling the playing field. And I think that's what's really exciting about this community of entrepreneurs that are building around this. They're not just like, oh, let me make a quick buck in Silicon Valley and, and cash out. It's actually people who are really idealistic and really care deeply about science and are building tools that are kind of, bypassing the traditional publishing system to really succeed. Okay, I want to move on to a question because I know this is a question for all of you, and maybe one, kind of 30-second answers from each of you about up-to-date research. Are any tool that's using some of these large language models, it has a certain date of completion. So for example, OpenAI, I believe, is 2021. How do you handle the fact that obviously, in some fields, research in 2021 is already kind of ancient history. And how do you make sure that things are up to date? So why don't we go in the order of the speakers? Sai, you still with us? If you are, then I'd love to have you start off, and then Felix and Damon.
Yeah, hi, Avi. So although I think you're referring to the ChatGPT, right? There is a cutoff date for that, but we really don't use the capabilities of it in a way in which we are trying to get the data from its knowledge, but we are using its knowledge confined to a research paper, right? Or a list of papers. So that does not really, move the needle for us. And it's not also gonna solve the hallucination issue, right? Even if the models are trained onto 2023, they're still gonna hallucinate. This is the way these models are structured. So to avoid that, we build this index of research papers and we use LLMs on top of it. So that way you really, there is no real need to ensure that these models are up to date with the information that's available on the internet.
Felix?
Yeah, from our part, for the Lateral app, so we're not using GPT for that. That's actually our own machine learning we built. And I guess, you upload the documents you're using. We're connected to Semantic Scholar. So yeah, we're not tied to that. And then for the coordination network, where we are using GPT, and but we're also exploring other LLMs, also quite very interested in the open source LLMs out there. There we're also looking at connecting different databases of information. So for helping road mapping and tying in, streams of up-to-date information. So again, also not limited to older papers. So that's actually up-to-date information as well.
Great. Damon?
Yeah, Avi, it's a fantastic question, and thank you for asking. I should have highlighted it during the presentation as well. Even though we are built within ChatGPT, because we are actually finding papers through our API connections, we're not beholden to the cutoff date either. And so one of the papers that I showed, even in the results, was as recent as June 2022. So no, there's no cutoff date for finding papers. The only cutoff date would be the training of the GPT LLM as far as the interactability, which should not necessarily limit any of the functionality there.
Fantastic. All right. I know that I promised everybody 50 minutes and we've already gone past that. So I want to let everybody go. But before we do, just quick preview for upcoming sessions. In 2 weeks, July 25th, same time, same place, same link. We're going to be talking about image generation, both image generation and image and how to check to make sure that our images are not plagiarized or copyrighted in any way. So we have 3 really great entrepreneurs who are going to be talking about that. So especially, I think, anyone who deals with tables, graphs, figures, images in their research, this is going to be really critical and important. The other really exciting thing that we just got closed today is, in addition to all of the great entrepreneurs that are here, we're going to be featuring Originality AI. For those who aren't familiar, Originality AI is actually one of the world's first AI detectors of AI texts. So I know all of you heading into September and October semester are going to have an onslaught of papers and maybe already do that are GPT enabled. I happen to take a proactive approach where I think we should try and challenge our students to use it for positive and think about how we do that constructively. But you may want to actually check for AI tools. So stay tuned. That's probably going to be later in the summer, towards the end of September. Originality AI, the leading AI detection tool. Just quickly before we go, best way to get a hold of you, Damon, Sai, and Felix, if people have additional questions, want to try out the tool, quickly. So Damon, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm very happy. Best way is my email. It's damon@scholarai.io. That's easiest.
Great. Maybe you could write it in the chat also, so we have it. Yeah, Felix.
So any questions can be sent to me as well directly. So that's I think the easiest is actually to support@lateral.io, and then I'll get those. And then any feedback as well. And also I think worth interacting with our Twitter. I'll put all that in the chat as well. And we check those all the time, and I'll make sure to get back to anyone that references today's session.
Great. Awesome. Sai? Sai, you still with us? All right. If anyone, like I wrote in the chat before, if anyone wants to be in touch and stay tuned for updates in between sessions, highly encourage you to follow us on Twitter. We just actually started our Twitter account, SciWriter AI. So give us a shout out and support us. And also, I'm quite active and post a lot about AI and research on LinkedIn, things that have to do with the course, but also things that are unconnected. So if this is something that's of interest to you, really do feel free to send me an invite and I will accept it right away. Thank you, everyone, very, very much. If you have not yet shared the course, please go ahead and do so. Happy to send you the discount codes via email. Really appreciate everyone coming out and taking your time, and look forward to seeing you at future sessions. And thanks, of course, to our guests, to Damon, Sai, and Felix, who showed the tools today.
Thanks so much, Avi. Thanks so much.
Take care, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.